We had a whole line of storms that were just scattered across the area today. They were the pulsing variety. They're the ones that tend to spin up really quickly and sometimes break down just as quickly. So our hats off to the National Weather Service across the region, but especially our home market here, Greenville, Spartanburg, and Greer, as they were trying to fire out these severe thunderstorm warnings all along the I-85 corridor and up in the foothills and the mountains as well, too. If you're watching right now live in the comments, would love to know what you saw. If you saw any break from that 105-degree heat index in the form of some of these strong to severe thunderstorms, and if so, what the cost was. But let's talk a little bit about what we saw. I mentioned that we had two microbursts observed on radar here in the Mecklenburg County, just outside of Charlotte, and they were almost in the exact same area. If you're familiar, it was kind of to the north and to the east of Uptown, almost towards where IKEA is, a little shy of the University City area. And you can see one of two of them here where a thunderstorm balloons up into the sky and then begins to collapse down on itself. So if you're looking at these pictures with me, right there where the bright reds and the greens push out from one another, that's a thunderstorm downburst pushing down and sending wind outbound like two giant waves away from the epicenter of the storm. 59-mile-per-hour winds estimated by the terminal Doppler radar here in Charlotte. And again, that was the second one we saw in that location today. We saw other similar storms across the upstate of South Carolina, across western North Carolina, and again, even in northeast Georgia, if you're watching from there tonight. So this is just one example, but we're honing in a little bit at this hour at 9 o'clock on Charlotte because of the two microbursts seen in the same spot, as well as the flash flood warning, which continues as we go on through the next couple of hours or so. But let's look at these warnings that were issued today by the collective weather service again along the I-85 corridor, along the I-77 corridor, even up towards Virginia. They had their own round of severe weather too, but you can see on your screen right now, these are not active warnings. This is just a collection of all of the warnings, a dozen or more warnings that were issued by the collective weather services that do cover the Carolinas, and you can see some of the storm reports that came in with these too. So let's take you in now towards Gaffney, South Carolina, where we had reports of downed trees. Even in Cleveland County, more downed trees there. I'm just clicking on a spattering of these, but that's exactly how the weather played out today. A spattering of strong storms that brought down trees and power lines across the area up towards Forest City. In North Carolina, we had some as well. And again, the weather service impressed themselves by looking at some of these storms that were playing out here near Carnesville, Georgia, where they saw 1-inch size hail and a thunderstorm that at times was ballooning 50, almost 60,000 feet into the air. And of course, you'll recall that the taller those storms are, a lot of times the stronger they are, as they're just working on all of that atmospheric convection. Up towards Morganton, where Scotty Powell lives and is located, we had down power lines. That was one of the first storms we saw this afternoon. They had storms there yesterday as well, too, in this now second day of weather that came rolling on through. We do have reports here in Charlotte again where a flash flood warning remains in effect. The Moorhead Street becoming impassable near Irwin Creek. That is just some of the flooding we're hearing about near that uptown epicenter. But again, also a report of downed trees not only here in Mecklenburg, but up in Cabarrus County near Concord. And so you can kind of just get an idea of the reach of this storm. And I don't even want to leave out, I should say, the reach of these storms, plural. Other communities to the north of Charlotte along I-77 and along I-40, where again, you can see as I'm clicking on these, if you're watching on our video production tonight, we have trees down in East Bend, trees down in Roaring River, trees down in Union Grove. And if you're listening on our podcast tonight, maybe later tonight or at any point during the week, you might just be recalling back seeing that kind of barrage of warnings that went up across the area. So clearly a very active day, fueled a lot by that heat, but also just all of that humidity in the atmosphere. We just kind of rang out like a sponge, and we had lots of moisture here in Mecklenburg County that eventually led to that flash flood warning being issued, because there was just plenty of moisture again to wring on out. And so there's that flash flood warning that goes until 11:30 tonight. You'll continue to see that scrolling at the bottom of your screen. You can always get real-time warnings from the National Weather Service by following us on Twitter, Carolina WX Group, or by streaming our Carolina Weather Net. It's free on YouTube. It's the place for Carolina weather fans. We built it just for you. You can find it streaming throughout the day, the best of the Carolina Weather Group alongside real-time radar, sky cams, and across that big red ticker that I keep telling you about in case you want to stay up to date.